This episode is presented to you by NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. With NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV, you can watch your favorite teams' out-of-market Sunday games, plus watch up to 4 games at once with Multiview. Don't miss the race to the playoffs. NFL Sunday Ticket is now just $39 when bundled with YouTube TV, where you get even more football. Visit youtube.com/Spotify offer to sign up now. Lowest price on YouTube TV with base plan. Rest of 2023 season. Terms and embargoes apply. No cancellations.
The holidays start here at Kroger with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Kroger has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And for the last time in 2023, welcome to Media Matters for Anfield Index. And it's a special one, people, because in simple terms, whatever we say, the headline will be Liverpool, top of the league. And I am delighted as ever to be joined by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. David, how are we?
Yeah, good. This period's just absolutely killing me because it's busy. It's just working and boozing and eating and yeah. So, but I'm enjoying it. It's really good. And as you say, Liverpool top of the league. So lots of positives to get into today. Yeah,
absolutely. It's one of those periods. We're in the sweat pants, quality street, anything left over period type of thing. People, we might be having turkey leftovers, turkey curry, whatever it is. And probably the first question I'll go straight in with, David. What does a Liverpool FC journalist get for Christmas? I'm guessing it's not a quill and ink. What type of things did you get for this year?
One of the good examples actually is fingerless gloves, because you got to be able to type while you're at Anfield and it's freezing. So that's I'm pretty pleased with that. Maybe number one gift there.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet that will be keeping warm because the wind hits that main stand and that press section, no doubts. And listen, let's get into it straight away. The Burnley game, a 2-0 and a real almost so many things to talk about this. A goal early from Núñez, a great strike, and then we have to wait till pretty much the last minute almost for Diogo Jota, who is back brilliantly and makes it 2-0. I mean, so much to talk about here, but what were your honest thoughts on the performance last night?
Yeah, I thought it's kind of a bit of a weird one, really, because, you look at that first half, so utterly dominant, should have been much further ahead and so many positives in that, apart from just the element of putting it in the back of the net for one reason or another. And then second half, I suppose you're always going to get that little rally at points. I think, I think Liverpool end the first half with 13 shots they'd taken, and it takes a while to get to 15 in the second. They're not as dominant in that second half in terms of chance creation, so they drop off a little bit, and Burnley get belief because obviously the longer it stays at 1-0, they think they've got a chance, even though they've been so poor in the first half. But I think the fact that Liverpool stay firm against that, they don't give up a single shot on target across the entire game, which is massively impressive no matter who you're playing. And come away with a 2-0 win that takes them top. You've got to say overall a very good performance. There are still those elements where I think there's still for me that little bit of stickiness in attack that maybe needs to be ironed out. But I think, this period is all about winning however you can. And the facts are that overall, it was a very good performance in the end. You just would have liked them to win 5-0, but that is true of every game, to be honest. So, I thought a very decent performance, particularly at the end of it, such a grueling period as well, and very, very positive to get the win.
Yeah, no doubts. And I mean, we started so fast. The only disappointment really was that it was only 1-0 at half time, truth be told, it and all that. So much positives to look back on. I mean, in a good way, we're back to being options realistically for this question. I think Darwin Núñez got it for the official sponsors man of the match. Was he man of the match for you, or did you have it for anyone else at all?
I'm not sure, to be honest. The forwards in general didn't sort of, I think they're part of the reason. I don't think they play poorly at all, and they're a big reason why Liverpool were creating so much chances and looking so threatening. But I'm not sure I would really pick them out as man of the match. I think there was areas of Liverpool dominance that I liked more, which was sort of what was happening in midfield. Maybe with Endo, I thought was very, very good again. The fact he's played all 5 of these games on the bounce. And not missed a beat at all, and been, really, really comes to the fore in the absence of Alexis McAllister. Thought he was in contention for man of the match for me. And also, obviously, the guys in defence as well. I just thought they didn't give Burnley a sniff. The fact that he's facing 0 shots on target, that is unbelievably impressive. And, Virgil van Dijk is, I'll probably shy away from giving him man of the match on the basis that we just get used to his brilliance, but that's probably unfair. But I really love Jarell Quansah next to him as well. The fact that basically I don't think anyone's coming away from that game talking about Jarell Quansah as a potential man of the match, or, sort of feeling like it's weird that he's being that good or unusual. Yeah. It's just, we're growing used to it. And, he's a 20-year-old kid who's been thrown in this season who, at the very start of pre-season, nothing whatsoever was expected from, probably quite likely at that point to maybe go out on loan. And what's happened now is he's just come in and he just totally stepped up, hasn't he? And he's taken on that role of in Joel Matip's absence, I'm ready to be that man. I can be one of your 4 centre-half choices. And, it just says everything that the manager's willing to put him in, and the level of his performances, I think, just show that he's ready to do that. And, so for me, man of the match wise, I thought sort of anyone in that defensive third generally did really, really well. And the forwards, yes, not bad at all, and don't want to be too down on their performance, but I think they just needed to add that little bit more cutting edge to maybe put themselves in man of the match contention.
Yeah, absolutely fair. The defence is, especially during this period, even back to the Arsenal game, they've been shining so much recently. And I did promise, and this will be the last time in 2023, we try and steer away from talking about referees, decisions and officials. But in my defence, Jurgen Klopp did talk about it at length. I'm sure you've seen his comments from last night as well. So just for those sort of big talking points, I mean, 2 disallowed goals. So if you go to the first one, the apparent foul by Darwin Núñez, which sees Cody Gakpo's strike disallowed. Honest thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so it's absolutely rubbish decision. Let's be honest, on the basis that we just didn't touch him, does it? There's just nothing there whatsoever. But I kind of feel for the referees in this situation a little bit, because of, I think the hands are tied a little bit on the basis of the whole clear and obvious element of this. So basically, in this, so you've got to find, once the decision's given on the field, you've got to find a clear and obvious reason to show that a completely incorrect decision has been made. But when the decision is this type of decision where it's around a coming together in the box or a potential trip or whatever, I think because of the clear and obvious condition that is created that they've added into VAR, basically the VAR has to find to completely prove Paul Tierney wrong, prove that there was basically no contact whatsoever between Taylor and Núñez, that they basically didn't touch, that there was what that clip would have had to show them basically was that there was clear daylight, which is absolute nonsense really, because you're never going to get that in those situations. I think the bar is so high for an overturn on this type of decision because there'd have to be, like I say, no contact whatsoever. But the reality is the contact is they maybe brush each other's shorts but then, it's enough there for the VAR to go, well, there is some contact. So therefore it's not a clear and obvious error. I can't overturn, it's just a flaw in the way that VAR is implemented for me. And I think, I don't love defending refs, but I think in that situation, I think they're almost painted into a corner by the nonsense way that VAR is set up, or the way it's implemented. Like I say, because it's that clear and obvious condition basically meant that they had to watch it a couple of times, and if they saw any touch whatsoever between them, they could go, "Oh well, that's why he's given the decision. We can't overturn it." And it's a poor decision on the field, but I also, again, in real time, you can see why it's made.
Yeah.
And what should be happening in that situation is VAR should be strong enough to say, you know what, the shorts may touch, or there may be a slight brush, but that's nowhere near enough. And I think the biggest indicator of all was the fact that a couple of Burnley players did protest, didn't they, immediately after, but Charlie Taylor, the one who was involved, immediately put his hands on his head, because he was like, "I've made a terrible error here. I haven't been tripped." And let's have it right. If he had been tripped and he felt he had been fouled in that situation, he would have been the first over to the ref. He would have been screaming. He would have been, you know, "I've been tripped. What? You can't allow that." So I think, you know, and it'd be nice if VAR ever picked up on little clues like that. You know, because I think anyone who's watched football enough times knows that sort of stuff makes it really obvious what's gone on. But yeah, so like I say, I think around that one, a poor decision. I didn't like it, but I think the VAR at times is the dealing with the burden of that clear and obvious nonsense, which makes it more difficult to reach the correct decision.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Obviously, like you said, becomes basketball. It's supposed to be a contact sport, but the bar is the bar. And I suppose this one a bit different, the second one, because Paul Tierney goes across to the screen or gets sent to the screen, I should say, to review this one. So Harvey Elliott's strike disallowed because Mo Salah's in an offside position and obstructing James Trafford. Honest thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is one I didn't like or kind of agree with, but again, I think this one is less of a scandal than the first one. I think this one, not on the basis that I agree with I don't think James Trafford would save it, even if he had full vision of it. And I don't actually think his vision was blocked with where Salah exactly was. But we've seen it time and time again. If there's if there's a line you can draw between the attacker and the goalkeeper in this situation, which you could in the Salah situation, they will disallow it. The being nudged offside is an irrelevance in that. We've seen it before, and I think in those, if you can approach these sometimes as, why did the ref reach that decision? Again, when he goes over to the screen, he sees Salah, and you can kind of draw that line of Trafford being in front of him. I still think Trafford can see around him, and he's going the wrong way on his foot, and that's why he doesn't get down. But I don't think it's a shocking decision in the sense that the referees, when they see them on the screen and you can make that line, they always just generally give them. It just wasn't a shock to me, and not as poor a decision, I'd say, as the one before. I think, again, this is one where the way the rules are around these ones, where they will just, if there's any threat of the player being in front of the goalkeeper, they will just give the offside. But we've seen that before, so at least there is consistency around that one, and I don't find those ones as frustrating, because we know that's given us an offside 9 times out of 10. In a similar way to when we see Alisson spill the other day, and that gets disallowed, and there's some furore around that. But because we're used to those, and they're always disallowed in those situations,
right,
no one should be getting frustrated by those ones. At least, we always say we want consistency, and at least I think in these situations we tend to get them. Except I'll say in that, and remembering the shocker that was given in City's advantage.
Yeah.
But again, that mistake shouldn't justify them making another mistake here by not implementing the rules that they tend to always implement, and that was acknowledged as a mistake, wasn't it? So yeah, no real complaints with this one, I think.
Yeah, which is interesting, because in the post-match interview, this was the one that Jurgen Klopp seemed more upset about, didn't he? And said something, someone who's not played football commented. But yeah, I agree. We kind of expected it. And the other one,
right on that one, by the way, I think on his comments, I think he's kind of right in the sense that I'm not agreeing with the decision in that I don't think Trafford would get there. And I don't really think Salah's actually in his eye line. I just think, but because they are very wary around these situations, in the same way that they're very wary around protecting goalkeepers. If there's any slight chance that he's in his line and you can draw that line between them, they will rule the goal out. And like I say, it's at least we are getting consistency on that. I don't think it's the correct decision, and I'd love them to have a little bit more leeway to sort of, interpret what they've seen. But, if you give them a little bit too much leeway, sometimes these interpretations can get wild and we can get some stupid decisions. So, like I say, I agree with what Jürgen's saying in that it's not correct in a football sense, but at least we are getting that consistency around those ones.
Yeah, absolutely fair. And at least in a good way, it mattered not a jot in the context of the game overall. So that was the most important thing. I mean, the positives to take, and I'm almost linking the Arsenal bits in here, because we said earlier, this defence is really shining at the moment. I mean, Van Dijk, as we say, we're almost just expecting brilliance every time he steps on the field. But as you mentioned, like Quansah stepping up, Konate was brilliant against Arsenal the other day. And almost it feels like because of that, he's almost going under the radar. Are people starting to appreciate Joe Gomez as part of the defence and the multitude of position he plays? Or do you just think the overall defence is just that good at the moment?
Well, I hope people are appreciating Joe Gomez, because I think he's absolutely brilliant, and he has been for a long time. I mean, he had a real dip last season, but I think that, who would you not say that of? You think even Virgil van Dijk, the ridiculous standards he set, wasn't quite himself last season. And, I think this was a big season for Joe Gomez, because if he'd signed that contract, over 12 months ago now, and sort of coming into this season, because he's had such a dip off the back of it, I was wondering whether, would it be a good time for him to move on? He's not going to be regularly involved, particularly if he doesn't get his form back. It seemed like a strange one, really, even his contract that he signed at the time, because I thought he would always be a contender to maybe go and play more regularly elsewhere. But what you see in this season is that, when Jurgen Klopp's got a full squad and things are going well and he can rotate, someone like Joe Gomez is getting an awful lot of games. And thankfully, he's back to his absolute top form. And I mean, this probably shouldn't come as a surprise, because you think, what he did when he was a youngster bit, he was Virgil van Dijk's main partner in the season that Liverpool win the league with the most ridiculous winning run that they were on. And just prior to COVID, they were just one of the best Premier League team we've possibly ever seen. And Joe Gomez was a big part of that. So and that was when he was a kid, basically. So he's older, he's more mature now. So he's showed, in theory, be an even better player. And I think we are seeing that, in that versatility is showing to play right back. I think he's come on so much as a right back. He's really added that string to his bow. And then left back is a different challenge because of the way he's got to use the ball. And he's not natural going down that left, but, just flawless. And he does so well in his defensive element, but he's got real quality on the ball as well. He's controlling tight areas. Teams try and box him in onto his left foot, but he always seems to find a way out. And I just love watching him. I think he's just a brilliant player to have in the squad because of that flexibility and versatility. And he's also worth mentioning, just an absolutely great lad as well. So really, really pleased to see him back, and just hope he can sort of, he's had injuries in the past, hasn't he? Just hope he can stay fit over the remainder of the season, because he's got an absolutely massive role to play. He's a sensational player.
Yeah, as Jurgen Klopp said, we need to wrap him in cotton wool, but he has been brilliant. And probably an interesting one to ask. Do you think he will score this season? Do you think he will send us insane and finally net one? Because it seems to get closer and closer each week, basically.
It's clearly in his head as well, because he's shooting constantly at the minute. So he's obviously thinking about it. So unlucky with that one against Arsenal. Would have loved him to get the winner, the one he just kills past the far post. And he's clearly got the quality, because I just think that strike he gets away against Arsenal just shows, the little curl he puts on it, and he can definitely do it. And I think playing fullback, he's more likely to get into goal scoring positions, isn't he? I think it's his problem is that maybe on corners a lot of the time he'd be put in a sort of covering position rather than being in the box for his goal scoring instincts. So he doesn't maybe get the chance to get many shots away, but it's starting to happen a little bit more now. And I'd love him to get one. I'm not sure what he'd do with his celebration though, because he's had a long time to plan this one.
Yeah, he kind of seems a bit too cool for school, Joe Gomez. I can't imagine it would be a big one, but fingers crossed we get to see it. And You alluded to it earlier that the positives were obviously that the forwards contributed, and we'll talk about their sort of maybe lack of clinicalness, but is the big headline from that, it was great to see Jota back and look at the impact he made after a few minutes, literally. Is that the big positive as well?
Yeah, because I sort of did a tweet at full time about Liverpool's sort of wastefulness in this game, and I compared it to the fact that I do think there has been that sort of stickiness in attack recently, and I know we've spoken about it, and a lot of people sort of disagreed in that, you know, said that the goals that Liverpool got disallowed. That's true, but I think in terms of the forwards' overall performance, it would just be like to see them be a little bit more clinical. I know Liverpool have got goals all over the pitch, but you know, I'd like to see Darwin Núñez turn 1 into 2 last night. I'd like to see Cody Gakpo maybe get on the score sheet when there's clearly goals in this game to be had. You know, and I think it feeds into the fact that they haven't been that clinical recently, or, you know, the goals have been coming mostly from midfield. We've seen Núñez have that goal drought. Gakpo, yes, he's chipping in. Diaz, again, you know, another one who's not scoring that many this season. That's sort of dried up a little bit recently. So, you know, I do still have that concern around the attack. And I think it all feeds into this idea that, okay, really, when you get down to it, is this attack good enough to win a Premier League? Liverpool are top of the Premier League now, but can they sustain it with the level these forwards are showing? And I think, you know, my takeaway from last night is that as a collection of attackers, so, you know, are they good enough to win the Premier League? Possibly not without Diogo Jota. But with Diogo Jota, I think he just adds that little extra level of deadliness in front of goal, that ability to sniff out a scruffy goal. I just think he's the difference maker, because for me, he's probably Liverpool's second best forward behind Mohamed Salah, which is, you know, there's no shame in being behind Mo Salah, but he's probably his equal in terms of finishing chances off. And I don't think the other three get anywhere close to those two in terms of when you put them in one-on-one, the likelihood that the ball is going to hit the back of the net. So for me, he is the difference maker in terms of whether this attack is good enough to win the Premier League. And to have him back is absolutely massive. And I think, you know, the key now is that he does pick up injuries. So can Liverpool keep him fit between now and the end of the season? And I think if they do that, he'll play an awful lot of games, and I think he'll score a lot of goals and, you know, potentially be the man to alongside Mo Salah, fight Liverpool to the Premier League. And he's got, you know, this is not to be too down on Diaz and Núñez and Gakpo, because that they're a brilliant supporting cast. And Núñez can get on a run with his goal scoring. We've seen that in the past, and would love to see that happen again. And like I said, they were a great supporting cast, but I just think Jota, as I say, just got that little bit of an edge in terms of his deadliness, and he will get you a goal in games like the Arsenal and the United games. Yeah. I think if he'd have been fit, he'd have sniffed a goal out from somewhere. And he's got that quality in him that maybe the others don't. And as a five, they've just got such a lot about them. But Jota just adds that little bit of magic. And so I think it's, huge that he's back, and great to see him back with a brilliant finish as well. So again, one of those finishes that he's just got in his locker from that such a tight angle. You almost expect him to score. Brilliant to see him back. And I think he can have a big impact if he can stay fit.
Yeah, it's never ability with Jota. It's availability tends to be the thing. And sometimes even the worse he's playing, the more likely he is to score type of thing. So, we are going to need him as the difference maker in January. But a load of positives from that. A 2-0, a clean sheet. So on to New Year's Day in Newcastle. And we always do a player in focus, people. So this one we're going to look at. It's an interesting one. Curtis Jones, David. I mean, he was a sub in this one. He was brilliant against West Ham in the Carabao, man of the match. And then, immense against Arsenal. We've had the sending off. We had the injuries. There's a real sort of peak and trough feel. Is that a fair description, would you say, of his season so far?
Celebrity voice impersonation, not an endorsement. Why go to a single furniture store when you can go to Big Sandy Superstore? Shop and compare America's top 5 mattress brands, plus Nectar and Purple. And choose from over 22,000 in-stock appliances from the top brands at the guaranteed lowest price. Or furnish the room of your dreams with a large selection of American-built furniture. With financing plans for just about anyone, there's nowhere else quite like it. Big Sandy Superstore.
Tired of ads interrupting your favorite show? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Download the Amazon Music app or visit amazon.com/ad-free sports. That's amazon.com/ad-free sports to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime members. Some shows may have ads.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a weird performance when he came on against Burnley, actually. Sort of looked a little bit off it in a very similar way to Gravenberch against Arsenal, and then eventually sort of settled down a little bit as he sort of got into it a little bit. So maybe that shows you that it's kind of difficult to pick the pace of games up when you're coming in as a sub in the centre of midfield. I think that shows it's difficult. But I think, the Arsenal one is kind of a funny one, because I think if he'd have stayed on the pitch, I think Liverpool possibly would have won.
Yeah.
I thought, because not just because Gravenberch was poor in his sub performance, and as I say, Jones did sort of similar at the start against Burnley, so it can happen. It's not to put too much blame on Gravenberch, but it's just because I thought Jones was playing really, really well. I thought he was doing outstandingly well against Arsenal, and I think the manager, if he looks back on that sub, will maybe regret it a little bit. But I think Curtis is, overall in terms of his season, like you say, there's been peaks and troughs, there's been difficult moments, but I think whenever he's fit and he's given a consistent run of games, you know what you're going to get from him. You know that you're going to get that solidness. He wins his duels in central midfield, which again has been a little bit of a problem for the midfield as a whole.
Yeah.
He wins his duels. His positioning's great defensively. He uses the ball really, really sensibly. Always tends to have his, pass completion is 90 plus in a lot of games, because he's really sort of safe and steady in it. And that's not trying things either. He does fire passes through the lines. He's not completely safe with it, but he's just very, very reliable in looking after the ball. So much to give. And I think, he's played himself into a position where, if you were to play a cup final tomorrow, I think he has to be in there, which, is testament to how well he's done this season when he's been available. Again, you'd just like him to get rid of some of these niggly injuries that he keeps kind of picking up that are disrupting his momentum. But his quality is absolutely obvious. And, again, another player that's been brought through from the Liverpool Academy, which seems to be happening a lot recently. And I just think it's massive to be able to pull someone who's this good out of the academy, having just got Trent Alexander-Arnold through as well, is just, testament to the work that's being done there. And I think he's doing really, really well this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, because it almost felt like that there's almost Gravenberch and him vying for it. But probably if there was a cup final, especially, I think many fans, if any doubts, he would be in that starting level. I suppose the question with Curtis is, obviously the trajectory is going upwards, which is brilliant. What do you think he maybe needs to take his game to that next level? Because I think a lot of people are starting to say, yeah, he should be a regular in the team, no doubt. But to be in that sort of our elite bracket, what do you think he needs to do with his game?
Well, Jurgen really summed it up, didn't he, after the West Ham game, in terms of saying that, he needs to, it's knowing when to speed the game up sometimes and when to try his little moments of magic. I mean, the goals he scores against West Ham, particularly the one where he dribbles through the team. I remember I watched him when he was in the academy, when he came through, he burst into the under 18s as a 16-year-old, and he used to score goals like that every week. Genuinely running in off the left-hand side almost and taking on 3 or 4 men and then just passing it into the back of the net. Genuinely, he used to do it all the time. And then when he came into the first team picture, I think there was a real focus on turning him into a Genie Wijnaldum type,
Yeah.
You know, making him really safe in possession, winning his duels, as I said, making him that really solid midfielder. I think what the next step for him now is because he's mastered that. You know, I think he's very similar to Wijnaldum in terms of what he offers Liverpool in midfield at the moment. The next step now is to add back in, you know, that little bit of magic, that you know, the goals, the sort of the dribbling, because he's still got that in his locker. We saw that against West Ham. So I think it's just, he's mastered all the elements that make him a solid and steady midfielder. He's shown that he's mature enough to do that job now. Now, can you just add those goals, those finishes? Though, you know, we know he can shoot from outside the box as well. His dribbling is really good, so he can take players on. I want to see that arrogance back into his game almost, because what the coaches have done is they've humbled him completely. Now they've managed to mould him into what they wanted. Now let's add that arrogance back in and see that a little bit more on the pitch, because he's got it in his locker. And, you know, if you add that back into all the other elements of his game that he's got now, he's going to be unbelievable. And I think he already is very, very steady.
He is. It's just literally, like you said, the coaches have almost pulled him apart. I mean, when he first came into the team, he was on the left side of attack quite often. So we were looking what he could do there. But now, like you said, almost reinvented that Gini Wijnaldum, but with that swagger almost a bit more, so to speak. So yeah, if we can see that, we already have, but we'd have a hell of a player on our hands that way. And I mean, it's literally the new year is upon us, and Newcastle is the next one at home right on New Year's Day. I mean, we got good news there that Jota's back, and Klopp even mentioned that he'll have more training, so we should, you know, possibly outside to start. Any hope for it? I know we probably ask you this every week, but as it's getting closer to that, and everyone's asking me to ask you, because they'll hope he'll give a different answer than the last 26. The 27th time will be different type of thing. But McAllister, Thiago, Badge, anything around those that we're expecting?
So McAllister, hopefully. I mean, that one is absolutely taking me by surprise how long it's taken. I mean, the initial suggestion after he'd done it at Sheffield United and he's speaking to people was that, you know, oh, it's just a cut, he's going to be fine. And every game that's passed since then, we've almost been thinking, okay, well, he must be in contention for this one, because that was the feel that was given, that it wasn't a serious one at all. And so the fact it's taken this long has been a real shock. I think, you know, Jurgen said not too long ago that the hope is that he would be, you know, it could run into the new year, but you know, this was the game where he's maybe got a chance. So we'd really love to see him back. And yeah, hopefully he's had enough time now for that cut to heal up, and he can run and hopefully not. I mean, he's not been feeling pain for a while, so I think it's just a case of, you know, will the stitches split or not, and hopefully it's been ages now. So really hoping that McAllister will be back for this one, because I think that's a real boost, particularly because they're going to lose Endo soon as well. Yeah. So to get McAllister back into that position, you know, ASAP is absolutely crucial. Even if he doesn't start this one, maybe just use him off the bench and get him back into the swing of things, and then he's going to have to start the next one after that, because obviously Endo will be on his way.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I mean, even thinking for that lineup against Newcastle, so you'd probably think that Endo would be there. Probably the biggest question, I think, Konate coming back in, because you're going to play your strongest lineup in that one. The forward line, David, at the moment, I suppose you're looking at probably playing your strongest forward line that you can. How would you see them lining up against Newcastle, those forwards?
See, that's a tough one at the moment, I think, because, you know, from my perspective, I think, you know, Luis Diaz is you know, you would have said he was in your strongest 11 on that left-hand side. I think that's becoming tougher with the way his form is going at the moment. Yeah. You know, and did Gakpo do enough at Burnley to earn himself a start on that left-hand side? Possibly. I mean, the interesting thing around this selection is that, you know, because Liverpool have basically got quite a big rest, or relative to this time of year anyway, coming into this game, is that, it can be your first 11. It can be the best team that you think can get the job done. So I think it's going to be a really interesting selection from Jurgen, because we haven't seen that for a while now. We've just seen what's the team that can get me through this game. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one. And I think, you know, at the moment, you know, said around the forwards, you'd like to see more finishing. I suppose the key element is Jota fit, and whether he starts in that central or on the left. I still think the manager's going to want to keep trying to play Nunez into his top form if he can. So obviously Salah on the right hand side, maybe you keep Nunez in that centre forward position. Can he build on his goal? And then I think, you know, if Jota's had enough training, I think that left-hand side is maybe got to be him, because I think, Gakpo decent against Burnley, but maybe not enough to push out Jota, who is just so deadly in terms of his finishing. And again, I think we've spoke before as well about Jota in terms of Anfield games where the ball is mostly around the opposition box. He's the player you want there rather than Diaz, who in away games may be a better option for getting the ball up the pitch. So, for me, that would maybe be Liverpool's first choice front three at the moment. But we need to see, alongside Salah, is two other people really, really staking a claim and saying this is my spot. I need to be in this team going forward. I think that's what we want to see in the games ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do, if they're all firing, we've got two great options off the bench at any time. That's the ideal scenario. And I suppose, like you say, that it's unfortunate, the big news coming up that it was confirmed by Jurgen that after the Newcastle game, both Endo and Mo Salah will depart for the Pacific Cup for AFCON there. I mean, Endo, and you rightly answered for me, that McAllister is a natural slot in and they have to go there. Salah, how do you think they'll adjust that forward line? Because, I mean, we've even seen Harvey Elliott play at times on the right-hand side. Do you think, again, is it a rotation, or do you think you'll have something specific in mind for covering the loss?
I think it's going to be Elliott, just on the basis that, as you say, we've seen it before now. I think he's been trying that out with this in mind. I think Elliott, he plays the position differently. He's not got Salah's electric pace, so it changes the way Liverpool attack. But I think we've seen it work. And we've seen that Elliott is a real threat there. Even if he's not that quick, he's just so creative, isn't he? And he keeps the ball well and, links up with other players well, lends the ball. I love the way he does that, because I think it gets Liverpool playing. So for me, I think it's got to be Harvey Elliott, because I think, if you put any of the others out there, they just don't seem a good fit. Don't like Jota maybe on the right-hand side. Diaz prefers to cut in. Again, I just think your most natural fit, and the one that will probably provide the least disruption to the team and the way it plays, is to put Elliott in there. Elliott's been playing really, really well this season, probably deserves that opportunity as well. So, anything that gets in the team, I'm sort of happy to see, because I think he's doing really, really well at the moment.
Yeah, it will be interesting, because, like you say, it does seem to have been Harvey that's had the time out there. People have alluded to, well, Jota, how would he flip it around? But yeah, it's the biggest attacker to cover, so it'll be interesting to see how he does it. And for the final time in 2023, we go to our questions from the viewers section. Now, you've probably no doubt, David, you know what's on the horizon. You know what most of these are going to centre around. But I think there's a few good ones linked. And the unfortunate thing we've had to deal with, that Kostas Tsimikas and his broken collarbone. So I think this was a good and fair question. Do you think that changes Jurgen Klopp's thinking about a move into the transfer market? I.e., if it wasn't before, does that injury and Joe Gomez now in cotton wool, do you think that changes his plans at all?
I'd say possibly not, just on the basis that Robertson's so close, isn't he? We're hoping by the end of January that he will be back, so you don't have to muddle through too many games before you get your first choice back there. And I think, the manager would say, well, what is the point of me signing someone on the basis that I'm going to get Robertson back? Because ultimately you've just been through a period where you've had no Robertson and you've just got Tsimikas, and now you're entering a period where you're just going to have Robertson and you won't have Tsimikas. It's not a situation that massively calls for someone to be signed, is it? Or I would argue not anyway. I think that the key element, and I said this all along in terms of the transfer market, is someone that Liverpool think is the Joel Matip replacement, ready and available to bring in now? Is that there to be signed, or do they actually need one on the basis that Jarell Quansah, did he think he's good enough? And I think those are the key considerations rather than the Tsimikas injury, just because of the timing with Robertson, is that Liverpool, if both had been out till the end of the season, I think it could maybe really force Liverpool to have a think about what they do there. Can they sign a centre-half who can also play left back and really give themselves really good cover across the defence? But because Robertson's close, I struggle to see that having a profound effect on the way they approach this transfer market. I said before, I'd love them to sign someone. I always think, if they can strengthen the squad, that's great. But I just don't feel like this is going to force the hand particularly. It would require Robertson to be out for the season as well as Tsimikas, and it requires something that dire, I think, for Liverpool to really be forced to do something there.
Yeah, and I agree and understand. He's mentioned, sort of, always been asked about Luke Chambers, hasn't he? Conor Bradley as well. I think naturally, you probably no doubt some of our viewers and subscribers are desperate to hear names like Ignacio, Hincapié, but the squad is strong still at the moment in that sense as well, and I'll probably get jumped on for saying that, but there we go.
Well, this is it. I think on the, say you sign in Ignacio, for example, where does he get his games? And when he gets his games, I presume it's instead of Quansah. Do people want that? Do they want to break up the Canate Van Dijk partnership, or do they want to not play Quansah anymore? And for me, that it's fair enough to think that, because maybe Quansah is going to make a bad mistake at some point. He is only 20, and you're putting a lot of pressure on him, I guess, in this period. But for me, I think that's a tough one. I think to deny Quansah the minutes now when he's shown such incredible promise, to not allow him to be that the fourth choice centre back at the moment, I just think would be a real shame, because this could be huge if he continues to build on what he's shown so far. He's only 20 and he looks absolutely brilliant. As far along in his development as Joe Gomez was at that age, and could be a similar figure for Liverpool. So, I think it would be a real shame for Liverpool to sort of block that path by signing someone. But, it's not something you could completely rule out on the basis that, again, they see Quansah in training every day. If they don't think he's quite ready and they think that mistake's coming, or that he's not going to be able to consistently do it, then maybe they'll look to do something to get ahead of replacing Joel Matip. But I personally think it'd be a shame just on the basis of what we've seen, because I think it's been really, really promising and exciting.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, if you'd asked me sort of maybe even 2 months ago, my answer wouldn't have been the same. But the more and more we see of Jarell Quansah, even last night, outstanding, that, I wouldn't want to block that pathway. So fingers crossed there are no more injuries as well, and we don't have to have this discussion again, but we will see. And it's kind of a wider question, because it's not transfers directly, but I'm sure you've seen it. Florian Plettenberg released a story about Jörg Schmadtke that he will still be here for January, but the suggestion is he will head off into his Ibiza retirement sort of in next summer at all. I mean, is there any more that sort of is coming around on that at all? Because it's natural. I understand the questions coming about, like, well, where is the next sporting director? What is the plan? Is Schmadtke going to be sort of, doing things in January, or is it because it's quiet, he's happy to stay? And I know that's kind of a lot of questions fired at you there, but is there any updates on those?
Yeah, so I mean, we've spoken before about Schmadtke, and the expectation was that he would stay in January because there was no movement around Liverpool getting anybody else, and I think that agreement kind of works for everyone, doesn't it? As he just finishes up in January, and then Liverpool can really start the search and make sure that they're sorted out for the summer, and I think there's been names linked, hasn't there? Max Eberl is one of them, and that there's nothing in that one in particular, but I've no doubt that Liverpool are scouring the market now, looking for someone they can bring in as that long-term sporting director. And there's nothing really concrete happening on that yet, because obviously that's something that only really needs to be sorted just in advance of the summer. But I think for Schmadtke in the short term, to have him in January, I don't think he's going to be massively busy, by the way. I thought he'd proven himself over the summer in terms of getting the job done. Liverpool's summer business, on the face of it now, from what we've seen from the players, looks like it was very, very good, and he did a good job in terms of negotiating some of those deals. So I think he'll leave with his head held high, but I think this January window really for him is going to be about sorting out Fabio Carvalho, for example. What happens with Nat Phillips? Do they both go out on loans again, and where did he go? So I don't think he's going to be too busy there, but I think, it's just about wrapping up things like that. And then, Liverpool's search for a sporting director who's going to be a long-term appointment is something that's kind of ongoing at the moment, I guess. And they're having a look at who's out there. So it can't be too late on developments for that, because I think you're going to get the other side of the January window, and we'd probably start to hear more from sources about what's happening with that, because you're not going to want to leave it till June to start appointing someone. It's something that you're going to want someone in place in advance of the window opening, because you need to get ahead of your business then. So I think once we get the other side of January, like I say, I think we're going to start hearing developments on that, and in terms of who Liverpool are looking to.
Yeah, it will be interesting, because as Schmadtke said himself, almost, he's been Jurgen Klopp's transfer assistant, doing the deals rather than sort of linking it all together. So hopefully await developments on that. And the final question of 2023, because we hit the halfway mark in the Premier League last night. We are top. in a good way, there's a few contenders for this. So I'm going to spread it a bit wider. Who would be your top 3 players of the season so far for Liverpool?
Yeah, so I think Virgil van Dijk's got to go in there as a bit of a no-brainer. Just unbelievable return to form this season and looks as good as he ever has, which I think is a huge achievement off the basis of, what was going on last year. And I thought, you worried whether he would ever get back to what he was. And he's right back there. Been hugely impressive. And Mohamed Salah is another one, just consistently goals and assists. And to think that some people were suggesting that Liverpool would be wise to maybe sell him to Saudi Arabia in the summer, despite him still having 2 years left on his contract. What a crazy decision that would have been if Liverpool had let him go. No amount of money would have been able to replace what he's given Liverpool so far this season. And it's such a shame we're going to lose him for AFCON, but I'm sure he's still got, he's still going to come back and play a massive part when he gets back from that as well. So he's definitely in that top 3. And I think the third one, there's a few contenders because I think Liverpool have been good. Alisson, again, I want to mention him. He's not going to be my third one, but I want to mention how he's utterly world class. In fact, it's ridiculously harsh that I'm not going to include him, but I want to include someone who's slightly a bit more left field. And I want to just throw Endo in there, just on the basis of, okay, he's probably not outperformed Alisson in terms of his contribution, but I've really enjoyed what he's brought to the table, particularly as I think, when he was signed from Stuttgart for 16 million, a team that had been battling relegation the last 2 seasons, and he signed days after Liverpool miss out on Moises Caicedo for 111 million. I can't say that my expectations were particularly high for him.
Yeah.
But he's just gone from strength to strength, hasn't he? A bit of a slow start, but just really grown into things. And he might never be the world-class level that, say, a Caicedo can reach. And Liverpool are probably going to look at that position at some point in the nearish future. But I just think, it's just a classic Klopp signing in terms of coming in, underrated and manages to win people over with that energy and the way he gets about. And he's not a bad footballer either in terms of his ability on the ball. So just really loved watching his development at Liverpool so far. And think, again, when he gets back from for representing his country, he's still got a massive role to play and he's really grown into that. So could be, a massive player for Liverpool in a season where hopefully they win a few major honours. So yeah, really enjoyed him, and he makes my top 3 for that reason.
Nice. And there will be people screaming at this, where's Trent? Like you say,
yeah.
All those types of things. But the best thing about this season, especially compared to the dismal last campaign, there's so many contenders or people that have gone up a level, retrieved, even like say, thinking back to that Matip's injury, how good he was compared to last season before then and how unfortunate it is. So it is all positive in 2023. And next year, 2024 is around the corner. Fingers crossed we'll be talking about more victories. We're still unbeaten on this since we started doing these, fingers crossed. So let's keep that going as well. But just like to say, thank you very much as ever for your time, David. Your insight is much appreciated.
No, thank you very much.
Stuff. And ladies and gents, that was the final for 2023 Media Matters for Anfield Index.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Tired of ads interrupting your favorite show? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Download the Amazon Music app or visit amazon.com/ad-free sports. That's amazon.com/ad-free sports to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime members. Some shows may have ads.